Hello, everyone. This is Meaghan Chitwood here for another episode of Meaghan Chitwood Live. I am super excited today to have Shawn Troughton with us today with TemperaturePro in Birmingham, Alabama. He went from having a full career as a ship's captain to start going into home inspections to then going into HVAC and having a company with HVAC. His story parallels mine. I love it, and I can't wait to share it with you. So let's get started. So as you know, this show is all about sharing B&I heroes and their stories, and you can catch us every Friday at 10 a.m. Central Time live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And then also you can catch the replay on LinkedIn and Instagram. So now I cannot wait to welcome Shawn to the show today. Shawn, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
I love it. I love it. So I want to just jump straight into, first of all, okay, ship's captain. I've heard about this picture that has you with the ship. So tell us a little bit about what that part of your life was like as it was happening.
Well, it was an amazing part of my life, and I loved being on the water. And after, goodness, 20 years almost of working on boats and ships, it was just time to do something different and stay home. So, but yeah, I mean, I had some amazing experiences, worked on all different types of ships, all over the world. And, I was able to bring some of those experiences, especially with the crew members, to this business and how important it is to surround yourself with good people.
I immediately connected that of well, you've got leadership covered, right? If if captain was in your title, right? You pretty much had leadership.
Yes.
As a skill set, right?
And my title was actually Master of Oceans, but I can't get anyone to call me Master, so they just call me Captain.
Just got it. Yeah. I would prefer Master too, I would imagine. Yeah. Absolutely. That's great. So what tell us about how you shifted from that to home inspection first, because that was your first transition.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was looking for something different, and I've always kind of been a woodworking hobbyist, and I've been involved in the shipbuilding process, just because that's part of your job as a ship captain. And so reading plans and dealing with just different mechanical, electrical, plumbing. So I brought that skill set to home inspection and started doing that, and enjoyed it and liked helping people. But I just felt like there was, there had to be something more, and I didn't have it in me to build that type of business, and that was ultimately not what I wanted to do.
Got it. So because you realized you were kind of trading your time, and there was so much, you had a limited resource, right? Because you had to be on site for each one of them as well. Now that's really funny, because you were talking about wanting something more, because your original game plan was not to build a business, right? No. What was your original game plan when you were exploring ideas?
Well, my original game plan was to just retire and get a retirement job. And I actually went to a local gun store to work behind the counter, and they wouldn't hire me. So that's when I started. I was like, well, I'm still pretty young. I can do something else. So had they hired me, I may still be sitting behind that counter. I don't know.
That's so great. That's so great. So so after home inspection, why HVAC?
Well, I wanted to stay in the service industry because even in shipping, you're service industry. So I think that's kind of what I'm geared for. But also, you know, what is something that everyone in the South needs? It's air conditioning, and I wanted to do something where that someone had to have some sort of specialty skill set in order to do. So, I know there's some people that try to fix their air conditioning themselves, but for the most part, I mean, people just don't have a clue to how it even operates. And so that was kind of the area I wanted to be in.
Oh, so interesting with the specialty. So, and it was more of because a homeowner is not going to try and Google it and fix it themselves. That was more of the direction of wanting something specialized, or say more about
Well,
that.
it partly that, and partly the fact that you couldn't just pull someone off the street and say, "Hey, man, come here. I got a job for an hour or whatever." Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's just, I wanted to have a group of people that, really had some specific skill set that holds value.
Well, so that's kind of interesting because my husband and I had a conversation a while back that he's like, I think you'd be a great real estate agent. And I was like, what? Like, what? Like, do you know how many people want to buy houses? Like, do you know how hard that is to market? Like, kudos to all of the real estate agents because, right, at some point in time, in theory, almost anybody would try to buy a house. I was like, whoa, like, I said, and I met a guy who sold a specific piece of equipment to a specific engineering type of organization. I was like, that's what I would want to do because it's easy to make a list of what your criteria is, right? You're not sifting through thousands of people. So that sounds like it's kind of the same thought process you had of like streamlining your pool as well.
Yes. And, just, how much value that a good company can bring to a homeowner. I mean, because that's ultimately what people are looking for is someone that they can trust, because most folks are so nervous when they call an HVAC company because they don't know what they don't know. So, I once heard someone say, refer to companies, especially heating and cooling companies, is, you've got a license to steal. And so we're trying to kind of correct that and give people a better experience.
How are you going about doing that?
Well, one, it's just the selection process of our employees. It all starts there. I, once said, well, and I still say that we want to be the company of choice for employees. They may not always think that, but that's ultimately our goal, because when we create that type of environment where people from the outside want to come and work here, that just goes right into someone's home. Yeah. So, we don't offer incentives for selling people stuff. They get what I consider to be better than average hourly rate. But now we do give incentives for like an upsell. So if a homeowner needs a thermostat, that's something they need in order to get that piece of equipment to work, but they don't need a Wi-Fi thermostat. So, so there is incentive on things like that.
Well, but also you've got that balancing act of making sure that they're selling something that's actually a need, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because how many HVAC companies are like, oh, yeah, you need a new HVAC unit, and it's like, tell me how that helps. Like, just I think explaining that why, is key and important.
Right.
Yeah.
And just giving the homeowner the choice, because some people, they may need a new unit, but you may also be able to repair it, but it's ultimately the homeowner's choice as to how they want to proceed.
Yeah, absolutely. So what kind of training do your guys get in helping communicate with homeowners?
Well,
or kind of what is your approach to that, I would say?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've got a really good operations manager who's been in the business forever. And I mean, there's something about this guy. When he walks into someone's house, he instantly builds that trust and rapport. And so he's constantly talking and training with the guys to help them, just to explain to the homeowner, what's going on, and try not to do it in such a techie way that, that the homeowner can understand, hey, here's the issue. This is why you have to replace this part. It's necessary. So,
Yeah.
but a lot of the dealers around town too, regardless of what type of brands you offer, they always have classes for the technicians, and sales training, or just how to talk to individuals. So
Nice.
yeah.
So you've been on this journey, right? How long have you been in the HVAC business?
This is our second year. We ran our first call 2019, July 2019.
Yeah. So how has business been? I mean, you're fairly new. You're still really pretty new, right?
Right.
So how has business been? What does that look like? What's your trajectory been?
I would say crazy. There's definitely been some times where I'm like, what was I thinking? I was retired, but so this time last year, it was me and two other people, and I had to guarantee one of the technicians, a specific amount of time. I was just like, hey man, if you come work here, I'll make sure that I give you this much, because we really didn't have enough work to give him 40 hours a week. And, but now we have 10 people, and we could hire more if we could find the right folks. So.
Yeah. Now you said something as we were chatting earlier about kind of you reach certain plateaus and pausing. Say more about that, because I think that's an important thing for business owners to think about.
Yeah, well, I mean, growth is good, and I think that's, really that's one of the whole points in opening a business is for growth, but it's got to be targeted and specific, and there's got to be periods of time where you got to put cash back in the till. So that's very important, because to hire a new technician, we have to buy a new vehicle, we have to stock that vehicle, we have to train that person. There's a whole lot that goes into it. And although on the revenue side, it looks really good because you can bring in this much revenue, but to bring on 4 technicians for a new company, especially, for a new company, can be rough. So,
because you got to outfit the whole truck and the whole shebang. Like, yeah, we're not talking about, oh yeah, we're just going to flippantly hire one more person. It's like there's a whole lot of stuff that comes along.
Because there's existing companies out there in the Birmingham market they're huge, and they've been around forever, and you can drive by their shop right now and you can see 5 brand new vehicles sitting out there. So they're just waiting for it to get busy, pull some technicians in, and and then go run them. So
yeah, not quite your reality yet.
No, well, and we don't. And to be honest, that's not our model. We want to keep the people we have. So we don't want to. We're not in the position to be rolling people through, because that just, to me, creates a bad homeowner experience.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and relationship was another a theme that came out as I was researching your company as well. So say more about the importance of the relationship.
Well, that's part of the company of choice for employees, that, we've got to have that bond. I saw how important it was being out in the middle of the ocean and you have one bad apple. Man, it makes for a miserable experience. And, sometimes we couldn't wait to get to the dock to get that person off. And it's the same thing here, and it's, it's going to happen. But, if we can't get someone on our speed or what we need for a company, then, for the benefit of not only us, but the homeowners as well, that's just someone that doesn't need to be with TemperaturePro.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with the B&I. You can't, or I can't go to a meeting and instantly expect results without having some sort of relationship with people. It's just not realistic.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's just people getting awareness and comfort level and all those kinds of things as
Right.
well. Yeah, absolutely. So you brought up BNI. So I'm curious, what was the problem you were actually trying to solve when you discovered that BNI existed?
Well, you know, to be honest, I wasn't really sure. I didn't even, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I didn't know there was a problem that needed to be solved. And it was just kind of a fluke chance that my banker invited me to a meeting, and I was like, I'm not gonna go do, after the first meeting, I thought, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to pay someone to go sit in a meeting and, but
Even after you went visited the first time, you still felt that way.
oh
Oh, I
yeah,
love it.
yeah.
Keep going. Keep
I
going. I love
wasn't
it.
going to
I
go
love it.
back. I thought this is a scam. This is not for real. Oh
Wow.
yeah, yeah, I was not going to have any part of that. And then after I got to thinking about it, for those that are watching this that don't know, there's an annual due, and so that's what I'm talking about. And I thought, that's just for a year. If maybe something could come out of this. And I tell you what really helped was that first meeting I went to. The director consultant was the feature presenter, and she, man, she did a fantastic job. So that really helped get the wheels kind of spinning.
It's like I'm going to learn I might learn something here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And, so I mean, she did a really fantastic, it was Tracy
Causey.
Causey. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yeah, so that's been a while. But so, I decided to go ahead and fill out an application, and this was right around the same time, I think, when the BNI University was coming out. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But that's when that paid off dividends. So I got more out of that in the first 6 months than I did anything else. And it's not because people weren't helping me or I wasn't helping them. It's just this, I didn't know anything about networking or meeting with people or talking to people. So it was just, it was an amazing experience, really, to be honest. I think we lost Meaghan.
Good. I'm back. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, my other microphone just like, they told me that when I did this, that something was going to happen. I have my backup plan.
Yeah.
So that's so fascinating. And then how did the first year play out for you then? At what point did you feel like, okay, I got this. Like, this is actually a valuable thing that I'm a part of?
Well, one was just all the education that I got off of the BNI University. Because that was invaluable, and I just soaked it up. Because I didn't know about approaching people or how to do a presentation, and I was, trying to go into realtors' offices and do presentations there. So, I took what I learned from the university into there. And, one of the best things that I've watched to date, and I've watched it numerous times, is 600 seconds to ROI.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the guy did an amazing job. It's about 35 minutes long, but I mean, he just lays out in such detail how to do a good, effective 10-minute presentation, because anyone can do a 10-minute presentation, but can you do it?
Yeah, talk for 10 minutes.
Yeah. And how to even incorporate that into a manager's minute or 45 seconds, whatever the group allows. So, just that alone has been unbelievable.
Well, that's actually one of the things that kind of came to light for me. I happened to work at Global for a while, and just the realization of one of the benefits is we get to learn how to talk about our businesses, right? Because you can talk tech, you can talk, but can you talk about it in a way that I can understand it? And I think that's what we're kind of connecting to, is you get to try it out a bunch of different times to say, oh yeah, this is what works when I'm talking about my own business as well.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. So would you say that the education and kind of the personal development elements is even like more important than the marketing elements of BNI for you specifically?
For me, especially in the first year, it was. I mean,
Yeah.
because I needed that just kind of as a baseline foundation before I could even really be effective with the other people in the group. So once I had that foundation, I found myself, doing better presentations, getting more referrals. That's why, when when I see a good person leave the group before they reach that point, it's like, man, you just missed out.
Right there.
Yeah.
Right there. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so one of the reasons why you were identified in our particular region for the show was because of your overwhelming giving, and thank you for closed business. You have contributed so much to the other people within your group. Would you say you automatically had a giving orientation, or was that something that kind of it evolved for you?
I would like to say I'm very giving. Some other people may argue that, but
I think your BNI members all would totally agree with that for sure.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's so much about me having a giving spirit or a giving heart as it is that when someone builds that relationship with me that I trust, and they're effective on showing me how to refer them, then they've got my trust. I mean, it's there. I will lend my credibility to anyone I meet for them. If no one is willing to invest that time for me to get to that point, you shouldn't have joined BNI. So it
is taking the time to build those relationships, which is what I find fascinating as I start looking at some of the core values of BNI members' companies. Like both Melissa last week and you, building relationships is a core part of that for your own company. So this feels like hand in glove. So going forward, what do you think BNI is going to continue to what problems do you think BNI is going to be able to continue to help you solve as you go forward?
Well, just keeping and fostering the relationships that have already been built, and just creating those new ones, because we're always looking for new opportunities, and we don't always know where those opportunities are. So, I've even got someone else in a BNI group because I find value in it and I see the importance of it. It does take away from her time doing other stuff, but to me, it's, that's time well spent. But I've been in it long enough and have been around long enough that where I know it's not Google AdWords. If someone's looking for an instant result, I suggest taking out a Google ad, because that's what that's geared for. This is a long-term strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. So another thing that I thought was interesting about your story, kind of going back to your business and your mindset around it, was you hired fairly quickly so that you could start scaling fairly quickly as well. You really understand the limitations of what your time should be dedicated to and what others. Can you say a little bit more about that, just for other business people to understand?
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't want to do it, obviously, because we weren't always bringing in enough revenue to cover those costs. But like our operations manager Steve, he convinced me that, man, there's going to be a need that summer, although we didn't have it right then. We needed to secure someone in that slot, otherwise we would not be able to handle what was coming our way. And I put off the office side for as long as possible, but it got to a point to where I'm like, man, all I'm doing is answering the phone and booking calls, and which is fine to a point, but there's other stuff that I need to be doing.
Yeah.
And it's, and the growth is not going to happen until those steps are taken. So,
it is kind of like go over your skis just enough, right? And then the growth will come, and then go over your skis just enough. Yeah.
It's almost like, people saying, well, we're going to wait to have a child for when we're ready. Well, I mean, we don't have children. So, from what I've heard, people say, well, you're never ready. So
no one would ever have a child if they waited until they had enough money or they were ready. Yeah. No.
Right.
And then if you thought you were ready, that was just a myth as well. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So anything else that you would share with our audience on just general business or B&I? Actually, let me back up. If there was an HVAC company in another area thinking about joining B&I, what would you say to them?
Gosh, well, I say it all the time because TemperaturePro is a national franchise, and they have gotten new franchisees to call me about the importance of B&I, and almost, if not all, of the TemperaturePro franchises are in a B&I group in the United States.
Yeah.
So,
great springboard then.
Yeah,
to really
it really is. I mean, there's no better way to start building relationships than this, especially because I'm not competing with another HVAC company in my group. It's just me, whereas, I enjoy chamber events when we're allowed to go, but how many insurance agents are in a chamber meeting, or, payroll company, or, so.
Yeah, it really, like, if you were doing installs, like new installs, it is that value of being able to stand up and say, hey, there's breaking ground over here. Like, who knows what about that, so that I can be, whereas you can't say that when you're in competition in the room, because they're going to be starting to do the research the minute they hit, the minute they leave the room, if you have those kinds of conversations with them as well. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, excellent. This has been so fantastic. So I want to read some of the major themes that I heard from you. Were, number one is how your former career, really what you learned there, you're really applying it here. So there, just because you did something totally different, it's similar skill sets, right? Of working with people, and similar philosophies and leadership and all of those kinds of things as well. And then overwhelmingly, I would argue that really the education for you, the referrals are awesome, right? But the education for you also is a huge value that I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for, the amount of personal development a person can actually have as they get involved. And then I think you've got to do short game things too at times, right? To get those first few clients, but also you got to have your long-term strategy in place as well. And this can be a good long-term strategy, especially if repeat clients are really important to you, and building relationships is really important to you as well.
And in the beginning, I mean, we offered some free services to those in B&I, just so that, we weren't trying to sell them anything on the back end, but it's like, hey, I want you to feel confident referring us. So let us just show you how we do things and what we do. So
yeah, love it. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I appreciate it so much. And next week we have another wonderful guest who is going to be coming to us. She does promotional items in the Birmingham area as well. Don't worry, Huntsville, we're going to get to you. But Sumta Shah, she is going to be with us next week, talking about her business. She has an unbelievable story of immigrating to the United States, starting off really small, selling out of a catalog, and now she actually has the equipment, doing the stuff in her specific space. It's absolutely a wonderful story, and I can't wait to share that with you next week. So we will see you next week.